Super Mario 3D Land!
Hello and welcome to the Nintendo Nostalgia Podcast. My name is Chris Warren and I am so excited to be your host today. Our episode today is based on a game for the 3DS, which I consider to be one of the best 3DS games, period. But before we get into that and what we are radical rexing about, let me introduce our hosts today. So today I have my good friend and co-host, Joshua Taylor. Josh, how are you?
All right, doing just fine.
Okay, great. And Ryan, how are you?
Great.
Awesome. Good. So let's not waste any more time and get into what we are radical rexing about. All right. So, Josh, what's been new and exciting for you lately?
Not a whole lot new as of yet, but mostly my mind has been set on vacation in about a month. To go back to Walt Disney World, as crazy as that seems, we found a way to make it work. So I am putting everything into that, doing extra DoorDash and all of that sort of thing. Kind of gives me something to work for. So definitely been looking forward to that. Now, as we were recording Mario 3D Land Deluxe or Bowser's Fury, whatever it's called now.
World.
Or World, thank you. Yeah, I even got that part wrong. It's supposed to come out on Switch tomorrow, and I do have it preloaded digitally, so I'm looking forward to jumping back into that. It was good on Wii U. But definitely looking forward to getting into it again, this time with my own daughter. That should be fun because she wasn't born quite yet when the Wii U one came out. And just really been looking forward to that one. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, there hasn't been a whole lot going on. I sure do pray and hope there is, because I could use a little bit of a change up. Sometimes things feel a little bit stale. So yeah, I apologize if I have been a little bit what's the word? Not as positive as I could be, but you know what? We're going to work on that, and we are going to get better. So,
Yeah. No, I mean, we all go through the kind of phase, so it's good that you at least know that you feel like a change is coming and necessary. So, you just got to keep that in mind and keep working towards it,
Sometimes this mouth proves the point that I need help.
Yes. It's okay. You'll get there.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, Ryan, what you got going on?
Not a whole lot. Had a pretty good week. Can't complain too much. I've been just, diving hardcore into Dragon Quest. I'm gonna have a slight detour when the time comes for 3D World to come out. I actually promised Kyle that I would play it if it ever came to Switch, and so I actually own the game on Wii U, but I never played it. I think my housemates played it, and it was kind of like their game. I let them play that, and I never really touched it. This time, it's something I'm gonna really experience and hopefully enjoy. I'm really banking on this being better than Odyssey, my first Odyssey experience. So I'm really hoping.
Wait, so you didn't like Odyssey?
Different.
No, yeah, I mean the second time that I've started playing it and actually went through to enjoy it instead of trying to shotgun through it real quickly, for an episode. Like I started to enjoy Odyssey a little bit more, but I'm hoping that this one just feels good right from the get-go. I hope so. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I love that game. It was such an unexpected surprise because I was really expecting to hate it. I just hated the idea of it when it was first announced. But once you play it and really realize the genius behind, the levels and their intentions behind it, it's really impressive. And I hope that it does well and gets the recognition that I think it deserves. I think you'll like it, Ryan. I really do.
Yeah, I can see. I mean, I love 3D Land, so I think that this is just kind of a step from that, even though it doesn't have the 3D 3DS feature. But I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I heard that it's a lot faster now. I'm looking forward to that because slow Mario doesn't sound very fun to me. But
right. Well, Josh, you played 3D World, right?
Yes, I
So
did on the
like
Wii U.
yeah, so I don't know. I didn't really I don't remember it being slow. Do you remember it being slow? That didn't really pop out in my
It
mind when I
was
was playing it.
um maybe we'll kind of even mention this with well, I don't remember if it's so much of a thing in lane it. I've even been playing it this week. Well, the run was a little strange in it, which I guess is kind of carried over to here where it like takes a second to kick
Yeah,
in. But
that's
I
true.
trying to think back, I haven't played the Wii U version in a while. I don't remember that being a huge problem, but I could also see where going faster could be very nice all in the same breath.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's great, Ryan, that you're going to experience this new version where they're kind of like improving on the things that that were already great. And I guess if speed was an issue, you won't really have to
Mhm.
um yeah, have that as an issue. I am curious though, Ryan, there's going to be some levels in the game where I actually didn't expect this game to come to the Switch. I kind of knew it was inevitable, but there's some levels that require the touchscreen, and so I'm really curious to see how they're going to handle that. Like, is it going to be, a docked-only experience for those levels, or is it going to be like Captain Toad, where there's like a cursor on the screen? Because I just don't know how they're going to approach
Mhm.
that. So just something to keep in mind while you're playing the game, and if you could, update me on that. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited for you, Ryan. Are you gonna get the
Uh,
amiibo?
I don't know. I had them pre-ordered, but I canceled them. I can't remember what all went on with that, but I might pick them up. Like if I happen to go into a GameStop and pick them up, or like a Target or something, I see them sitting there, I'll probably pick it up because I don't think those ones are gonna just fly off the shelves like some of these Smash ones do.
True.
At least I hope not. But you never know with that kind of thing.
Mhm.
I think the only other thing that I'm kind of radical Rexing about is that there was a sale, 75% off on Nino Kuni, and
Oh,
uh,
wow.
uh, I hopped on Draco's account and bought it for him with there was like $6 left over from their previous Nintendo Network account, and then they had gold coins, and then I spent like $1 and
So it was
something
like
out of
nothing about
pocket.
that point. Yeah.
Essentially, yes. So I was able to get that and surprise Draco with that. That was pretty cool. And Valentine's Day is coming up. I'm radical Rexing about that.
Yes, very
I don't
true.
have a lot of like big grandiose plans because COVID, but uh,
Mhm.
I've got several gifts that I'm going to be sporadically having pop up throughout the day. So
Mhm.
it should be pretty fun.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. All right. Was there anything that you wanted to add about Super Mario 3D World? I feel like I might have cut you off at some points. Did you have any other
Oh,
thoughts that you wanted to share?
uh, no, I just want to experience it and have some
Hmm.
thoughts and opinions since Kyle thinks it's one of the best Mario games ever made. So,
Right. I'm glad that he thinks that, because I feel like Kyle and I have pretty different takes on games. I could be wrong about that though. But when you do get it, I think we could play online, right? Like it has online mode
oh
now,
yeah, multiplayer. I forgot about that.
It does.
right? Okay.
Nintendo's online
We'll
has
see
not
how
always
well
been
that
great.
works.
Yeah, and from the
Yeah.
reviews, I've heard
Sure.
it's a little wonky, but hopefully it's better than Mario
Really?
Makers.
Hmm.
Oh wow. Okay, that's a huge issue
It's
if that's the
Hmm.
case. That would
it's
be
the way
horrible.
Nintendo's set up is it goes off of whoever's is the weakest, whoever's Wi-Fi is the weakest, basically. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and everybody
Wow.
suffers from it.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. I mean, like, I guess I get it from like a technical standpoint, but I don't have all the answers, and I can't see that being
It's a
a
little
great
outdated.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, because that would be huge if the online was great, or if it's not great, that would be huge too, just in a negative way. So I feel like this game has the potential to be a massive, massive hit, maybe even
Oh yeah.
more so potentially than like Odyssey in a way, because it's a multiplayer game, and multiplayer games tend to get a lot of buzz. And if they screw this up with the online, this could like ruin the game. And it'll be curious to see if you know Mario 3D World gets some type of sequel or iteration in the future, because I feel like they're bringing this back to give it like a new life and kind of test the waters to see how popular this unique format can be. So I don't know, I hope it's received well. I really like it. Everyone's going to find out how much we like 3D Land, or at least how much I do. We'll see what you guys have to say. But yeah, I think it's a terrific game. So to anyone who's listening, who's considering it, do a little research. But if you like platformers, I think 3D World really deserves a fair shot. The level design is genius. It's very strange, like, because I was expecting a Galaxy game, because this is from the Galaxy team, and the Galaxy games are just unbelievably phenomenal. But this just does its own weird thing, and once you accept that and kind of rewire your brain to just go with the flow with this very bizarre game and just enjoy it for what it is, I think you'll really, really enjoy it. It's honestly like one of the best platformers ever, in my opinion, and especially as far as like creativity goes. They just throw all these completely random ideas out there. With the Galaxy games, everything was kind of cohesive with like this space theme, but with 3D World, they're just like, here's an idea, here's a random idea, and like it doesn't matter if they don't go well together because it's just a Mario game and you just select a stage, So it's very creative and just super fun, and it doesn't like overstay its welcome either. So it's a good game to kind of pop in and out of whenever you're in the mood for like a totally wild stage. So I hope everyone likes it. So as for me, I mean, there hasn't been too much going on with me, which is fine. No news is good news in a way. Just kind of wanted to acknowledge a few things. So I got like the Eon 64, if anyone knows what that is. So that's that little that little dongle. For anyone that doesn't know, it's like this little dongle that you plug into your N64, and it kind of like lets you connect your N64 to an HD TV. I think I mentioned this with you guys before, but like I'm able to plug in my N64 into my TV because it still has those, I don't know, those colorful ports that the N64 used. So, I can put it on my TV and it looks okay from a distance. I don't really mind it too much. But what's cool about the Eon 64 is that it has this button where like if you press it, it'll like blur the image, and so it kind of gives this illusion that the game's in HD. So I've been playing Yoshi's Story, which honestly, I have to be honest, it's my first time playing it, and I am not a fan of what I've played so far. Especially coming after Yoshi's Island, I don't get it. I'm gonna keep playing, but it's just not my cup of tea so far. The controls are strange. I like the aesthetic, but I don't know. I'm not sure how this is gonna go. But F-Zero X, oh man, F-Zero X is so good. It holds up so well. I can't believe how like fluid it is. The frame rate's amazing. It's awesome. Ugh, I love F-Zero X.
GX is the best, but X is really good.
Exactly. Yep. It's funny because I played F-Zero GX. That was like my first F-Zero game, and going back to F-Zero X, it's like really impressive to see what they were able to do on the N64. Like I didn't expect them to, kind of advance what was in the N64 version into GX. I thought GX was like just its own wild thing, and F-Zero X was like this very basic racing game. But like they had those tubular levels or stages, whatever I'm saying, like where you're just like flying all over the place, and these like big dives and stuff that was in GX. So I'm just really surprised that this was those things were in the N64 version. So F-Zero X holds up great. I was playing 40 Winks. So for anyone who doesn't know, 40 Winks is a game that was canceled for the N64, and over the past year or two, it's been available on like a physical cartridge unofficially, but like it plays just fine on an N64. So if that interests anyone, if anyone likes collectathons, it's not too platformy, but if you like, collectathons, and I guess it's kind of like a brawler, it holds up really well. It's like for a canceled game, it's really good. So if that's still available, I kind of recommend 40 Winks. It's not going to blow your mind, but it's pretty fun. I have been playing Clubhouse games. Clubhouse games is awesome. I feel like it's a game that doesn't get the recognition it
Mhm.
deserves. It's a very simple game, but what it does is phenomenal. Like it doesn't get any better. There's such great production value. It looks great. The sound is good. Like the texture design, the texture on the Mancala marbles is like crisp and gorgeous. So yeah, I've been addicted to Mancala. And it's two games that I got recently. What?
Just
Mancala
nothing.
looking pretty? Yeah.
Mancala.
I love Mancala. I did get a game the other day because unfortunately my childhood and longtime GameStop is now closed. It closed all of a sudden, so I'm like really devastated about that. But I did want to get one last game for them, so I got New Super Lucky's Tale. So I figured like a good 3D platformer would be a good way to go out. And
It's a nice one.
yeah, I'll keep you posted on that, Josh, because I kind of had you in mind when I saw it on the shelf. And Dragon Quest XI, I actually thought of Ryan when I saw that was on sale. Yeah, that was on sale on Amazon for like $40. So I was like, let me jump
Nice.
on that.
It's good.
Sometimes, yeah. Oh man, I cannot wait. You know how much I love Dragon Quest, so
The puns may kill you, though.
yes, good. That's how I want to die.
You will be
And,
punished.
yeah. In gaming news, I'll just touch up on a couple things. So I'm really excited that Crash 4 is coming to the Switch. I was not sure if that was ever going to happen, but I'm so excited about it. And, Ryan and Josh were talking about this before. It's really cool to see that they put a lot of effort into this port, and it's not just some lazy, like, downgraded version of the originals. They clearly put some thought into it and have the models be their own unique thing that are more like suitable to the Switch's capabilities. So that's really nice. It's really comforting to know that there are developers out there that really care about what they put out and are very thoughtful in how they approach a port. Even if it is a quote unquote lesser version of a game, they still want to make it as good as it can be. So it's really nice to know that there's companies out there that really value that, because that's just a win-win for all of us.
Crash and Smash now.
I hope so. What do you guys think? Crash and Smash? I vote yes.
No idea, but it should happen.
I think
I'm
it could
saying that
happen.
as pompous as I can.
Ryan, how would you feel about Crash and Smash? All right.
Every time I think of Crash in Smash, the only thing that I would care about is that they do the bazooka justice.
Yeah, that would be cool.
What is
the spin? Of course, that makes sense, but that bazooka has got to be like some cool mechanic, or like it just has to be. It has to resonate with me. Like any other of his loadouts or anything else, like cool, but like his motorcycle, whatever. I'll take any of that stuff, especially like the belly flop, basically on that would be fun to do. But I want to see what they do with that Wumpa Fruit bazooka.
Right. Yeah, I know. I don't know if he's like the best character suited for Smash, so that's the thing that's kind of making me think he might not be in it, because he wouldn't be too unique with his abilities unless they can really pull something off. But I don't know. I just like representation in Smash. Like that's something I really value in it. So I just feel like as a franchise, it's not the most iconic franchise or series, but I don't know. I just like having all these like 3D platform characters in there because I just feel like they have a very I don't know. They have a very cool place in gaming history. Yeah.
It would be great if they incorporated the different deaths that happen to him. So like if he drops gets hit by something, it'd be like the angel like flying up, or when like an explosion is what KOs him, that like it'll just be like the eyes left behind or whatever, and like have that comedy there. It would be great.
Right. I think like one reason why I think that he could be in it is because, Naughty Dog thought really long and hard about the universe of Crash. And so I think that Sakurai really does reward, developers who do that. The music is really, really good and catchy, and I think would be really appropriate for Smash in that way. It's kind of like the most non-Nintendo, what am I saying? Yeah. the most Nintendo-like non-Nintendo game in that way, especially with the music. I don't know about the controls, but yeah, it's just a very fully realized world. So in that way, I think that he would be pretty appropriate for Smash. Because there are some characters in Smash where I'm just like, why are you here? So I think he would be more appropriate than others. Like, I don't want to cause any controversy, but like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Steve still, but
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway,
Who?
so
Who's
and
this
last
pilot
piece
you're
of.
talking
I mean, I haven't played Three Houses yet, so I'm still reserving judgment on that.
Not against
character,
Three Houses. Anyway.
Right.
Go ahead.
So anyway, and also as we all know, Super Mario 3D World is, I believe, coming out tomorrow. I got charged for it on my card yesterday, so I think it's coming out tomorrow. Yeah, so I am so excited for that, as you guys already know. But I think a good way to kind of celebrate this release of Super Mario 3D World is to talk about Super Mario 3D Land. But before we get into that, we have one voicemail that we'd like to play. Jacob just called in, so let's hear what Jacob has to say about Super Mario 3D Land.
Hey guys, it's me, Jacob. Sorry I cannot make it on tonight. Just busy with school and life stuff this week, so... But I did want to call and chime in. Thanks for Chris, Josh, and Ryan for taking the reins without me. But I miss you guys, love you guys, and love our listeners. But yeah, Mario 3D Land, what a gem this game was when it came out on the 3DS. It really was like a mixture of old school Mario and 3D. It speaks for itself. It was really cool. It's cool. I think that this is the game they brought back the Tanuki suit. Tail, and made it modern again, which was really cool and nostalgic for me at the time, honestly. To see that in a 3D environment and what you could do with Mario like that. The game was just great. It really revolutionized Mario and made it fresh feeling again. And the fact that we were playing on a handheld, I think that's cool. And they stuck with the land. Think about that. They stuck with the land naming for the game. Mario 3D Land, with land games were always portable and world games were always the home system. So I thought that was really cool as well, because then we got Mario 3D World, which, gosh, I would love to see remakes of the Mario Land games on the Switch. That'd be awesome. But yeah, guys, there's just some quick thoughts on the game. It was great. It was fun. Surprising. It was fresh and new, and honestly, I'd love to revisit it again. So, but you guys have a good episode, and I will talk to you. I'll be back hopefully next week. Bye.
Cool. Thanks for calling in, Jacob. I'm glad that we could get your thoughts on it. And sorry you couldn't be with us, but it's still nice to hear your thoughts on the game. I'll just touch up on one thing that he mentioned. I do really like that Super Mario 3D Land made the game, or what am I saying? It made the Tanuki suit, it brought it back and it made it modern and brought it into like a 3D space. So I really liked that because, I played Super Mario Brothers 3 when I grew up. And so to see that suit unexpectedly come back in like a handheld form too, I just thought that was a really clever, unique take and way to kind of introduce a new format of the Super Mario Brothers franchise. It was a fun introduction, or reintroduction rather, of a old favorite. What do you guys have to say about what Jacob said?
I mean, seriously, give me a Super Mario Land All-Stars or something like that has the first 3 land games plus 3D Land mixed in. Sure, give me that.
True. Yeah. Although I don't know, I haven't played the land games too much. I'm somewhat familiar with them, but I feel like even though 3D Land has land in the name, I feel like it doesn't have too much in common with those. Am I wrong in thinking that?
I could kind of argue against that and say that
Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
It's
fine.
a mix. I want to say no, it doesn't, but then I can kind of see how it does. Maybe I'm getting too much into my point already on that, but that's part of why I wasn't sure about Land at first, or 3D Land when it was first announced, because Land 1 and 2 were so different and unique, and then this just looks so kind of safe.
Right.
But I mean, granted, I actually ended up liking all of them anyhow, but
Mhm.
so I would definitely like to see Land 2 make a return in some form. That would be great to see.
Yeah, yeah. I
Ooh.
do hear that like the Land 2 holds up better than the first one. I never played
Mhm.
the
I think
first
so.
one. But I have seen like, a graphics comparison and wow. They really understood how to optimize the capabilities of the Game Boy with the second
Yeah.
one for sure.
Almost like playing
Uh,
World or Super Mario World on a Game Boy, similar.
yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I haven't played it too much, but I also like the weird themes of two and one too.
Yeah.
One's kind of weird in its own way, but a huge difference, and we might mention this later. A huge difference between 3D Land and Super Mario Land 1 and 2 is that Land 1 and 2 seem to really take some risks and just be weird and be proud of it. Whereas 3D Land, it was very safe, and that's okay. It's good in its own way. But, I do kind of miss when Nintendo gets a little weird with Super Mario Brothers. But I would say that Odyssey got a little weird. So it's nice to see that that hasn't totally lost um, their frame of mind. Well, I guess we'll just start heading into our topic. So today we'll be talking about Super Mario 3D Land for the Nintendo 3DS. All right, guys. So I'll just provide a quick few background details on the game, and then we'll talk about our nostalgia. So, Super Mario 3D Land was released on November 3rd, 2011, which is insane because that means that later this year, this game will be 10 years old. I cannot believe that. I remember getting the game like it was yesterday. 10 years old. Crazy. Um, yeah, I feel so old now. But there have been no ports. It is a somewhat recent game, and it is a game that does take advantage of stereoscopic 3D, so that's kind of understandable. The developer of Super Mario 3D Land was Nintendo EAD Tokyo. So for those of you who don't know, the history behind this developer is that they made Donkey Kong Jungle Beat for the GameCube, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I know not too many people feel that way, but it was such a bizarre, just really cool, strange platformer that I'll just never forget. Very unforgettable experience. And also, of course, the Super Mario Galaxy games for the Wii. So Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2. And so after the Galaxy games, they made Super Mario 3D Land, which is pretty wild. Um, the genre of Super Mario 3D Land is that it's kind of hard to pin down, but it's definitely a platformer, and it is in 3D in a way, but it does take advantage of all these different camera angles. So sometimes there's a isometric point of view, sometimes it's in regular 3D, like Mario 64 or the Galaxy games, or sometimes it's in like 2.5D. So this game experiments with lots of different camera angles when it comes to the platforming here. And as for previous titles, if we're not considering previous Super Mario Brothers titles, because we all know there's zillions, this is the first game of its kind. So this is the first one with the 3D land or world moniker. So it was very different and very new and fresh at the time. So it was kind of exciting in that way. It was announced at the Game Developers Conference in 2011, and it was really shown off at E3 that year. So this was a 3D Mario game that was in true 3D on the Nintendo 3DS, which to me was like crazy. So let me ask you guys, what did you guys think when this game was first announced?
Trying to think back to it there. I guess it has been a little over a decade when it was announced, but like I had somewhat mentioned before, I was really happy to see like a brand new Mario game coming to the 3DS. This was still, I'm trying to think of when the 3DS came out. I'm going to say this is still pretty early on, so there wasn't a whole lot of releases on it when this was announced, at
Right.
least. And I got it on release. So thankfully I had the ambassador program, but there wasn't a whole lot else to play on it. So yeah, I was really excited about that. Like I kind of mentioned before, and like when I first got it, I honestly feel like I was a little bit. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it as much as I usually would a Mario game. Like being a big fan of especially Land 2. I just feel like that one's really underrated. I was kind of disappointed again to see it like sort of play it safe. Like everything just kind of looks like it normally would in a Mario game instead of, them sort of going out there and throwing in a new power up like the bunny suit or something like that. And instead I kind of feel like they just tossed the Tanuki suit in there like, hey, let's just throw a bunch of nostalgia in there to try to get everybody's attention. And it's like it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way at first. But it still looked like really good, even from that mindset. And I mean, honestly, once I got it in my hands and after I sat down and played through it probably twice through, and my mind changed pretty quickly. But yeah, it was a mix between, at first, it was a mix between I was happy to see a new Mario game, but I also was a little bit disappointed maybe with the Land series taking the direction it did at the time.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. Like I think I mentioned before, I'm not sure if this was during the episode or not, but Super Mario Brothers 3 was one of my favorite games growing up. I think it was like my first game ever when I was a little kid, and I had such fond memories of it, but I kind of like forgot about that game. Kind of was really I was more nostalgic for like the N64 and GameCube, and kind of forgot about the fact that I did play that game growing up. And so when I was able to see all these references to that game, it was really quite an experience to kind of go back to my memories as a little kid and re-experiencing my the first times I played video games in general. So I was really excited in that way. It was nice to see a new take or a twist on Super Mario Brothers 3 and incorporating it in this really weird new way. So I was excited for it. Ryan, what about you? What did you feel and think when this game was first announced?
I was actually really excited. It was a welcome reprieve from the new Super Mario Brothers series that had been plaguing us for so long.
Yes, so
and
true.
we got this, and I was like, yes, and it's a return to the land formula. Like, it's portable, so it makes sense that they use the land. Like, that's perfect naming for this. Like, gold star for you guys. Bringing back the raccoon. Well, I should say Tanuki. There's a difference actually between Raccoon Mario and Tanuki Mario in America, but and even by extension, Kitsune Luigi, or Fox Luigi or whatever, that first appeared in this game as an alternate form for the Tanuki. But just like, it's definitely got that like draws from, as a 3 for 3D, and it has land, so it's like a land game because it's portable. And it was a return to form, getting away from the old like new Super Mario Brothers stuff. Like, I was super hyped for this game.
Yeah, it was such an unexpected announcement. I'll never forget when I like read about it. It was probably on IGN when I saw, the news that was coming out of that conference. And when I saw that, I flipped out. Like, I could not believe that the Super Mario Galaxy team was making a 3D Mario game on this new system, and it was going to be released, within the launch year of that system. I was just so excited, and it just looked like they were really going to get weird with it. And I was like, I am so ready for that, because we had the two Mario Galaxy games, and I'm so thankful that we even got a second one. That's so rare. But I think we got our fill with both of those games, although I'd happily welcome a third. But it was cool to see that they were like ready to try something new, something new but still kind of familiar. So that was pretty cool. I think that this game, when it was being developed, they were kind of mixing a few things to make it appealing. So it had this nostalgic appeal, like that we've been talking about, like it kind of having some some components of Super Mario Brothers 3 involved and bringing it into like a 3D space. It also has appeal from the Galaxy games. It's from the developer of those games, and so a lot of people at that time were really craving another game of that type. So it kind of combined those two things, having this Super Mario Brothers 3 appeal and also the Galaxy Super Mario Galaxy games appeal, and but also it was its own thing in its own way. Combining those two things gives you this product that's just totally different. And a lot of people see Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World as like this third tier of the Mario games. It's kind of confusing with like the 3D name, but there's like your typical 3D roaming around Mario games like Sunshine and 64 and Odyssey, and then you have your 2D Mario games like 3 and World, and now we have this. We have 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World, which kind of combines elements of all these different types of games. And honestly, I just really like them. They do something that all the other ones can't, and it's interesting. But I think that Super Mario 3D Land was so necessary at that time because the Nintendo 3DS was so hard to market. It was hard to show people that this is a 3D system. Like, no, not just 3D like what you're used to with, Super Mario 64 and Galaxy. This is in stereoscopic 3D. So, they had to communicate that this game jumps out at you. So it was interesting to see that this game tried to show off the capabilities of the 3DS. It had to be the killer app for the 3DS because there weren't too many games at that time for the 3DS. Like there was Ocarina of Time 3D, which is a great game, but it's a port of an old one. And same thing with Star Fox 64, another great game, but it's a port and not HD remaster, a 3D reimagining of those games. So this needed to be something new and exciting and really show off the capabilities of that system. And not just the capabilities of that system, but the capabilities of 3D, like the advantages of 3D and what makes it so appealing. So I think it was a really brave move, but I think that the game does a great job showing off what 3D can do. Something I wanted to touch on real quick, if I could, is the genius of the box art. So, going with what I'm saying about how hard it is marketing a truly stereoscopic 3D game, I think that the box art is just so smart because if you look at the angles that they take with that game and like the shadows of it and stuff, I just think it's such a clever way of marketing what a 3D game can feel like, even though, this box art is flat. When you go to a store, it doesn't really jump out at you. But I think it would have been interesting if they made the game have those like holographic things on the cover. I feel like that would be a good way of kind of communicating that, now that I think of it. But yeah, so guys, can you talk to me about your memories playing this game? Talk to me about your nostalgia while you first got it and played it and what your impressions were.
For me, this came out shortly after I got married, so this is a pretty crazy time of my life. But like I said, first playing through it, I kind of feel like it was. I'm trying to think of what else was released then, but I kind of feel like it was a little bit shoved to the side. It was kind of more focused on other things and all of that sort of thing, so it didn't stick out a whole lot. But I think what's more stuck out with it for me is actually going back to it on and off, just kind of throughout the years, honestly. Even just this past week, I went back a week or two and just went through the main 8 worlds. But it's one of those that, I feel like at first I wasn't blown out of the water with, but then like going back to it, I'm like, I I end up really loving it every time I end up going back. It's just one that's easy to go back to and sort of take in, and it doesn't take real long. It's not super difficult unless you go for absolutely everything. It can get kind of crazy, but I think it's one that just um, grew on me the more as time went on. And I mean, even from the beginning, still, I don't want to sound like I hated it at first, but
Hmm.
the 3D, I think this is one of those that really showed truly what the 3DS could do, and it the way its levels are even designed. I do think to kind of pay for it, some of the stages and some of the bonus stages especially don't work really well if you play in 2D. So it's not real great there. But I almost feel like
Right.
that kind of had to be done to go for what they're going with here. This is one of those instances where Nintendo knew the system that they made basically, and they wanted to work with what that gimmick was, like with the Wii and things like that, and they usually do it best. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's grown on me.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan, what about you?
I was really sucked into the world and kind of fell in love with it more than what like the initial hype, because it reminded me a lot of those levels, albeit a lot of them were less frustrating, but a lot of those levels in Super Mario Sunshine where you had the flood taken away, it just kind
Right.
of had that feel for me. Like it was like you're playing a game that was based on those types of levels. And
Yeah.
that just spoke volumes to me, because that was my favorite part about Sunshine, was doing those challenging levels where you're like, like weird blocks are turning in the air and you're like jumping from like, place to place, or like every time you jumped a switch would flip so you'd have to like have a platform that appeared or something. Like it was just a lot of like skilled platforming, and it was so like kind of odd that they put that in a handheld like this. And it had its challenging moments, and you better believe I went 100% for this game. Like it was awesome. I loved every bit of it, and gave it its due diligence just because I loved it so much.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a really good point. Comparing it to Super Mario Sunshine, I never really thought about that. It is a lot like those levels that really challenge your true platforming skill. And there is a reason why people like that in Super Mario Sunshine, because it kind of takes a break away from the exploration aspect of those 3D Mario games and it really tests and challenges your platforming skills. So this game just was like all about that. Although I would say it's not the hardest game in that way, but I think we'll talk about that in just a little bit. As for my nostalgia with this game, I tend to wait a little bit before I get a new console. And, like we mentioned before, there weren't too many games that came out for the 3DS at that time. And honestly, it looked like the 3DS was going to be a huge failure. It was not selling too well. And so they had to cut the price, and they had to like really rush out these Mario games towards the end of the year. So I waited until Mario Kart 7 came out and Super Mario 3D Land. I was just so excited for the system, but I needed like a good reason to play the game. So right when Super Mario 3D Land came out, I rushed to get out. No, I'm sorry. I waited until Mario Kart 7 came out. I think that came out in like December. So right when that came out, I got 3D Land and Mario Kart 7. And I was just so excited for the game. I got invited to a party that day, and I actually just went to the party and played Super Mario 3D Land the whole time, and like just tried to
Attaboy.
show everyone the system. Yeah,
There you
such a
go.
loser.
He's a
But I
cool
will
kid.
say I did have some
That's how you do it.
a lot of the yeah, I had a lot of friends who were actually really into it and impressed. So I was just like, I don't know. For me at that time, I was so excited for a truly 3D system. I know Ryan and I have talked about this, but we love 3D. I love, stereoscopic 3D. I feel like it offers such a great experience and really immerses you in a game or movie or what have you, if it's done the right way. And for me, Nintendo did it exactly how you should be doing 3D. I think they did such a great job. Although the original model of the 3DS was a little painful on the eyes. But yeah, I was just so excited for the game. Like I said, I brought it to the party, but it just felt like I was holding the future in my hands, like holding a system that could project a 3D image into your eyes. Still to this day, to me, is just mind blowing. I can't believe it. And every time I play it, that's the very first thought that I have when I turn on my 3DS. It's just so cool to me. So I wish other people appreciated it as much as me. But anyway, I really like that Super Mario 3D Land was nostalgic in its own way, and I think that Super Mario Brothers 3 is definitely a game that deserves to have, some elements incorporated into our modern days. I don't know if I'm phrasing this correctly, but I like that there's a flagpole in the 3D Land games. I like that there's a Tanuki suit. I will say it took a while for me to adjust to this small Mario. Like when you get hit and he turns into like a mini Mario, it just looked very bizarre to me because he just has too big of a head on such a tiny body. It's just uncomfortable to look at. But I don't know. I've kind of grown fond of him ever since. I like that, there's the music stages from Super Mario Brothers 3. I like that there's, the Fire Flower Mario. So all the things that were great about Super Mario Brothers 3, I like that they brought it back and kind of gave a fun little twist to those. There's a lot of variety in the game, and it's like a great pick up and play game. So you can just play a stage and close your 3DS and play it later, or just do a couple of stages and get back to it at another time. The story is very minimal. I don't even remember what the story is, but as we all know, it doesn't really matter.
No.
I did like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but the story was kind of told in like cards, like
Oh,
these
yeah.
like 3D pictures and stuff.
Oh,
So that was fun.
Oh
You
yeah,
could
that
move
was
them
really
too.
cool.
Like if you shook your 3DS, they would usually bounce or
Oh.
make noise
It
and stuff.
was
didn't know
like
that.
when you did the puzzles in Street Passing. When you completed puzzles, you could actually watch like a 3D like video, or sometimes they're still images, but they moved around a little bit. It was very much that.
Oh,
It was an early precursor to that kind of thing.
I didn't even know they did that either because I
Yeah.
never
You can
completed
check them
those
out in the
things.
gallery. One of the worlds, there's a little
Mhm.
gallery. You can go back and look at any of them. Try moving your 3DS
True.
around a little bit, and some of them.
Alright.
There's pieces of them that'll shake or make noise and stuff.
That's awesome.
Just a nice
That's gonna
little
be the first thing I
charming
do when
thing.
I get home.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like we all know, the story is not the biggest part of a Mario game. That's not why anyone gets them, and that's completely fine. But it was fun that they, try to have some kind of a story, because it would be weird if it just had no story at all, or tried to hint at having one. So it was cool that they kind of acknowledged that, yeah, we don't really need a story. So here's these fun 3D cards, because that's the reason why you got this system in the first place. So yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Mario doesn't need a
Something
story.
that's Mhm. Yeah, I don't know. I'm with you there. I play for the levels. But this game was a little bit different from the Galaxy games and the 3D Land games because of its controls. So you had to press Y to run, and you didn't really have too much control over the camera. There's also a whole other list of things that we could talk about with the gameplay, but I wanted to get your thoughts on the gameplay, guys. So, how do you guys remember playing this game? Did you enjoy how it felt? Did you like the new inclusions in the game? Yeah, anything that stands out to you about the gameplay of Super Mario 3D Land?
I gotta say, the amount of raccoon tails, like Tanuki tails on everything was so rewarding. Like
Yeah.
Bullet Bill, Boo, all having tails. Like I actually went out when I went to Mitsuya in Chicago, Mitsuya Marketplace. I would go. They have gacha machines there from Japan, and they had 3D Land gacha, and I bought every single one of them to get those. Like I had like the Boo with the tail, the Bullet Bill with the tail, Mario with the tail,
Wow.
the music box, and like I had everything there.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah, that was like something that I don't know, I just loved this game so much. It was crazy and like they also like alluded to like Mario Brothers 3, like bringing in those ships,
Yeah.
like the airships again. Like I remember Jacob had pointed some of these things out to me as well, and I'm really sad that he couldn't be on tonight because this is definitely something that hits hard, like with our nostalgias together, and so it's just oh yeah, so cool. There was that special like I guess it was a save block or something. It was like clear with purple. I'm trying to think what it was.
Oh, So that was like
Or a
a
checkpoint?
mystery or bonus box or something.
Okay.
If you're talking about like on the stage select screen, it's like this purple box and you can jump into it and it's like I think it was like you have like 10 seconds to get all the coins or something like that. Each one was kind of different, but yeah, that was a really fun new addition. And I believe that you could like they would disappear for a while and then they would come back later if you like street passed with someone who also had the game or maybe even through Spot Pass or whatever. So that was a fun way to kind of incorporate Spot Pass and Street Pass into the game. Like really unnecessary and not like a
Mhm.
standout feature of the game, but it's just like a nice little inclusion, you know?
Mhm.
Is that what you were talking about, Ryan?
Yeah, and then also just the blocks in this game were big too. Like there was like enemies hiding in blocks and things like that. That was kind
Yeah,
of cool. Like you never knew what you're gonna get when you jumped into something.
totally. Yep. Yeah, Josh, any thoughts on the gameplay or anything that was unique about this game to you in
Yeah, I
regards to
mean,
gameplay or controls, at least?
at the time, I mean, even now, I guess it very much plays like the 2D Mario games, except in a 3D plane. I mean, it's got the run button, it's got the
Yeah.
flagpole, it's got some sort of goal, the power ups and all of that sort of thing. So it was yeah, I guess it was the first 3D Mario that wasn't a collectathon, which I probably prefer the collectathons, but still, I love this game. So,
Yeah.
um, so they're just different, and I think it pulled it off very well. And maybe to kind of go back on my statement before, where it seems kind of safe, maybe at least for this first outing like this, maybe that's not so much of a bad thing. And I ended up, like I said, I even kind of like the aesthetics to it now. Looking back at it,
Yeah.
I kind of feel like they went with that in a larger scale from that point, mostly from this point forward. I feel like even if you look at the theme park that's coming to Orlando, the one that's in Japan already, I kind of feel like it looks a lot like this or 3D World, that sort of aesthetic. It's a little blocky, and like I said at
Right.
first, I wasn't sure what I thought, but I think it actually works for what they're going for.
Yeah, totally. No, those are some really, really good points. I do yeah, I really like what you said, how, they kind of made it safe for this version, and which is fine. And it was a good way to kind of introduce people to this world and this type of style and stuff. But, for 3D World, I feel like they didn't play it safe at all. Perhaps, the visual style is very similar, but the gameplay, they just they just went all out with Super Mario 3D World. So I feel like it was a good introduction to this type of style. And the graphics, they're safe, but they they work. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I'll talk about the visuals in just a moment. But just wanted to touch on some of my thoughts on the gameplay. So there's lots of camera angles in this game, which I
Mhm.
appreciated. So there's so much variety to the types of levels here, and almost all of them have a completely different camera angle. There's actually, now that I think of it, there's like a level kind of mimicking how like the Legend of Zelda was
Yeah.
on the original NES. Like that
Mhm.
was a really cool surprise. So they just
Mhm.
I just love the creativity of this game. And
To call
they
out that
have.
level,
Mhm.
if you don't mind, real quick on that level,
Yeah.
there's even a part where you have to light torches, like in the room with the fire flower, and it makes that Zelda do-do-do-do-do-do-do jingle if you light them all.
True.
So
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was a pretty obvious. Like at first, it was like this kind of looks like Zelda. Once you go to do that,
Right.
it's a little more obvious. But I thought that was neat. They didn't overdo it,
True.
but it was definitely there.
Yeah, yeah, just the fun little touches like that. I love it. Nobody does it better than Nintendo in that way. Um, and there's so much variety to the game, like we've mentioned, but and it's like this perfect marriage, in my opinion, of what a handheld Mario experience can be and what a 3D console Mario experience can be. So for me, like the 3DS was the first time where I didn't feel like it was just a handheld system. It was kind of like a console experience in handheld form,
Yeah.
and was so and like with Ocarina of Time too, it kind of really made me feel that way, because like with the DS, yeah, we did get Super Mario 64 DS, but after that we didn't really get too many 3D games in that way. So um so the 3DS for me was kind of like this is a console experience that you can take with you on the go. Is similar to what we're now familiar with the Switch. I thought Y to run was fine at the time, but like going back to it now, I don't know. I don't know why I'm not like too used to it, but it's fine. It's not a big deal. I think it's like a interesting way to mix up the gameplay of a Mario game. So and it's like a fun little challenge in a way too. So it's fine. Um, I do like the map design. So it's not like 3D World where you can kind of like roam around on the map. I think they did a really cool job with that in 3D World. But with this, you kind of just select the level. It's really cool because it's like you kind of jump into the level, and in 3D it just looks amazing. And I think that there's lots of like background details to the levels. So I just think it was a really good way to have a stage select screen, especially in 3D. I don't remember how I feel about this, but I wasn't a huge fan of not being able to control the camera. So you could only do that with like the left and right buttons on the D-pad, and there was also an option on the touchscreen. So that was a little odd, but honestly, it's kind of like the Galaxy games where you don't really feel this need to control the camera. It kind of like guides you for you, and the level's kind of designed with this particular like camera angle in mind, so not a big deal. I just like to kind of control the camera. This game has lots of different power-ups, like that propeller box. So there's like these levels where you have these like steep drops and they just look amazing in 3D. There's also obviously the Tanuki suit, which honestly I think it makes the game a little less challenging. And I think I just love the Tanuki suit so much that I was just always in the Tanuki suit.
Yeah.
So, I think a good way to go back if you find the game a little too easy is to not use the Tanuki suit and kind of like test your platforming skills in that way. But that's easier said than done. I just love the Tanuki suit, and they kind of like offer it everywhere, so it's kind of hard to avoid. This game it gives you so many lives. I never had an issue with lives and being afraid of like a game over screen. Do you guys agree with that?
That's a good point. There was plenty of lives, but even if you were still having trouble, the game would give you like a handicap boost as well, in a couple
True.
different ways.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but there's lots of things that this game introduced in like subtle ways. Not as boldly as like the Galaxy games or stuff like that, but like the propeller box and some of the new enemies. Like there was like this like snake that's like those that was made of like boxes, the brick boxes. So there's lots of like little ideas sprinkled in, but I think that's why Super Mario 3D World didn't feel so exciting at the time, because it kind of just took what Super Mario Land or 3D Land did so well and just kind of built on that. So I think that's why it got the reception that it served, or the reception that it got. Something that I thought was really cool, I completely forgot about this, is there's this mode where you can use your 3DS's like binoculars. So as you're playing in the game, you'll see like this, binocular stand, and as you walk up to it, it changes the perspective to like a first person perspective, and you can move your 3DS around kind of like you would with binoculars, like when you go to like a tourist destination, and they have those things where you put a quarter in and you look around and stuff. And if you look around, it'll like show you these like little secrets or how to get to the end goal. So I just thought that was a really cool way to show you what to expect in that level, but also have you explore a little bit and
That
kind
was
of
brought
have
back.
some secrets be hidden. Oh yeah,
That was brought
was that
back
in
in
3D?
Odyssey, I believe.
Oh, I completely forgot.
You could like
if
throw
it-
your hat on it, and you could like zoom up in the air and like look at stuff, look around and stuff. I remember right.
Okay, I completely forgot about
So,
that.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that was a pretty cool introduction and a very clever use of 3D and using the system in its own unique ways. Like we mentioned, there was Street Pass, so that was pretty cool. This is a game that had like enemies stacked on top of each other, so that did really drive home this like 3D effect in some way, and it was a cool spin on new platforming challenges. So I thought that was pretty interesting. There were like these coaster levels where like you could stand on this platform, and depending on where on the platform you stand, it moves in that direction. So I thought that was a pretty clever new introduction. And something I thought was pretty cool as well is like there's these flat panels. If you guys remember this, there's like these panels where I think if you like stepped on a certain spot, they would like move and form these boxes. It's kind of hard to describe. They would like
Yeah.
create platforms. So they're like these flat panels, but as they moved, they would create new 3D platforms and boxes and stuff. And that just looked amazing in 3D. And also was just a really cool idea for like a platforming game. So yeah, just a lot of creativity in very subtle ways in this game, especially with the gameplay. Nothing overly bold or striking, but just some fun ideas, especially with like having 3D in mind. So, guys, did you guys also find this game very easy? Because I found it to be extremely easy.
I personally did. I think that's one reason it's kind of nice to go back to. Just
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to get all that frustrated with it.
Mhm.
Granted, usually when I go back, I don't always go through the whole extra world. Like this might be somewhat of a spoiler, but after you beat the first 8 worlds, you get a whole new set of 8 worlds that are a little more difficult. Usually throw a little more crazy stuff at you. But I
Yeah.
still feel like, and I know I fully completed it, but I don't, and it's been a while since I've fully completed it, but I still don't feel like it ever got like super difficult. I kind of feel like
Yeah.
this was one of those games that um, I almost wish they just did away with the extra life system. It kind of got to the point where it felt a little pointless in
Mhm.
this, especially when you just got so many. Like it's a nice reward, and I think maybe that's why it's still there. Maybe perhaps like it gives them something else to hide, something else to reward you with.
True.
But it just felt like when you've got like over 100 lives by the end of it, it's like I don't really even know why this is here at this point.
Right.
But
Yeah.
Did you guys ever experience the handicap feature that this game offered?
I forget. Was it like where the Tanuki suit was white, or was that a different game?
Yeah, you were basically invincible
Okay.
and you could run through the level no problem. But that's
Right.
five failures, and that would give you the option.
Oh yes.
10
I knew it all too
failures.
well.
Yes, 10 failures, and you actually got the P-wing power up, which actually just warped you to the end of the level. How do you feel about that?
Oh,
You
I
instantly
don't
could
think I
finish the
ever
level.
experienced that. I
eh,
mean, this is a game for kids, so I think that's important to keep in mind. And so if a kid's having a really hard time, or not even just a kid, but if anyone's playing this game and they're having a really hard time with this level, although I can't imagine why, why not? Anyone can play a game any way that they want. And if
Mhm.
they want to like skip a level that they're just not enjoying or they're having trouble with it, fine. But like, I'm not going to use it because I'm playing this game to
right.
challenge myself and play the level. I'm not skipping a level. I paid for this game.
I think if you grab them, I believe like your stars when you complete the game don't sparkle or something. I forget. Maybe I'm thinking of a different
Oh,
game,
It could be.
but
okay. Yeah, it could be.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, something I kind of like about this game is that it's not too challenging. With 3D World, something that I didn't like too much is that it's a pretty challenging game. So maybe they, took to heart some of the criticisms about 3D Land, like being a little too easy, and they went a little crazy. But the 3D World's still an amazing game, but I just like having a game where I don't have to like think too hard or get
yeah,
frustrated. You kind of just explore, and it's kind of like this roller coaster ride of these platform experiences, and it's just like a pleasant thing to do. So,
yeah.
for this episode, I was playing this game after work every once in a while,
Mhm.
and it was just really nice to unwind and play these levels. It's like not stressful. The music's nice. It looks nice. So it's kind of nice to have an easy game. There's definitely an advantage in that way. But like Josh said, they give you so many lives. Like I literally had hundreds, hundreds and hundreds of lives to the point where it's just like, do we even need this? Like, just get rid of the lives and just let me keep playing the level till I beat it. It was, but at the same time, like Josh said, it kind of was a way for them to kind of like hide lives and give you some kind of like incentive to explore and stuff like that. So I guess that's why they did it. I don't know. Quick question now that I think of it. So did you guys play this game with a 3D slider all the way up like I did?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is one of those games where you need to have 3D on. Like other 3DS games, fine, whatever. But like this game, you need to have 3D on. That's the whole point of the game. So you guys all played with 3D on?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you guys like imagine playing this game without the 3D on? Because like it's just why bother, some stages, okay, I guess you could get away with it, but there are some where it's just like the whole point of this level is to experience 3D and have like these optical illusions stand out more. One thing that comes to mind is there's like one of those box levels that Ryan you were talking about, and it with the 3D off, it looks like it's just a regular square. But when you turn the 3D on, it's an optical illusion. And you'll notice that the boxes on the top level are actually like above you, whereas before it kind of looked like it was on the same plane as you. So it's things like that where it's just like you need to play this game with 3D on, and it's another reason why Nintendo did 3D so good with this game, and it's very clear they did their research and wanted to just throw everything that they discovered about 3D into this game. So yeah, it's to anyone who's listening, if you have a Nintendo 2DS, I'm sorry, you're experiencing a much lesser experience with this game. So anyway, so guys, let's just talk about the visuals and art style. So Josh mentioned that it's a very simplistic style, which is fine. Like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But the 3D looked amazing with this game. So I think the art style was a good way of like introducing us to 3D and making everything kind of stand out a little bit more. I think that if they incorporated some type of style, it could have like compromised that. So I guess that's why they went with that. But yeah, it was simple, it was clean. I feel like it was kind of like Super Mario Brothers for the DS, but kind of in 3D in a way. So it has like a similar art style to that. So, not overly exciting, but I did like that there was like lots of particle effects in the game. So sometimes you'll walk past like a dandelion flower, and if you blow into the microphone, they'll like fly all over the place. Those like, dandelion petals will fly in your face. So it's just like a nice subtle way of getting 3D in your face and having it be kind of exciting in that way. And something I did like about the graphics is that, and I hope you guys remember this. When you go to like Bowser's castle, his castle's made of stone or like cement or whatever. And in some of the levels, it's like raining, and in 3D, it just glistens. The stones glisten. So I have to say, like the lighting effects in this game are really impressive for like a game that came out within the launch window of the 3DS. It's really impressive what they were able to do, and like and the game makes it look so much more epic than it really is. Like you'll see these backgrounds look like you're in Bowser's massive castle, and like you're just surrounded by lava, and like there's no walls or levels near you for like almost like a mile. And in like the cloud levels, it just looks so massive and grand, and it just makes you feel like you're in the sky. It's amazing what they're able to pull off on a handheld system in that way. So yeah, I just there's so much I love about this game. And also there's so much detail with the levels, and with the graphics. It almost looked like a GameCube game in portable mode. So at the time, that was just like crazy to think that we could play a game that looked this good. Let's talk about the music and sound real quick, if we could. So, what did you guys think of the music in general and just like the sound design?
I think it fits its style very well. I think it's very Mario. I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about it for myself. Like it's not one that I found myself like adding to my YouTube playlist and stuff that I'm listening to in the car necessarily. But I can't really say anything's wrong with it either. It's very boppy. It's very positive. You know, so I appreciate it for that.
Yeah.
I don't really see anything wrong with it.
Yeah, harmless, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Brian, what were your thoughts on the music and sound design of this game?
No comment.
Oh, does that mean you don't like it?
That
Blink
means that
twice
I
for
didn't
yes.
play the game with sound on.
Oh,
What? Why?
I do that a lot, especially if I'm in handheld
Oh.
and I'm around other people. I don't want to disturb them, so I just turn the volume off. And so I
Okay.
just don't play a lot of games with volume on.
That's fair. Well, honestly, you didn't really miss too much. I would say that this game, like Josh said, it's harmless. It's renditions of older Mario tunes, like remixes and stuff. I think there is like a Zelda mix in there. I think in like one of the winter stages, they kind of, I don't know, incorporated like a Zelda tune in there. I could be wrong about that, but I got a Zelda vibe from it. But I will say, when it comes to the music, the music in the stages themselves was not overly memorable, but in the stage select screen, I thought the music was really, really good. And which is unfortunate because you're not on that screen for too long. But every time you entered like a new stage select world, I don't know, I really liked the music. I thought it was very experimental and fun. There's like this cloud world where it was like this very peaceful tune, and there's like this desert theme that was really interesting. So, and also I will say, like towards the end, there's like this kind of like nostalgic retro 8-bitty kind of song, and I just thought that song is honestly one of the best Mario songs in my opinion. So check that out.
while we're
I
talking
know I'm
on
gonna.
the
Mhm.
my bad. I was gonna say
No,
while we're talking on the music and the sound in general, there's one
Yeah.
sound effect, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about or not, because it's kind of silly, but it's like my ears just like it.
Yeah.
But I think it happens mostly when you're like going in and out of like the toad houses, if I remember correctly, or those areas. It's
Okay.
like I can't make it.
Is it like
It's almost kind of quiet even.
Hmm.
It's gosh, how do I even compare it to anything? It's just a little jingle that lasts like a second. It's like a kind of sound, but I swear, like it's from something. Like it sounds very
Yeah.
Mario, but I can't ever piece it. I swear it sounds like it's from one of the old cartoons, like one of
when
the
you
sound
jump
effects.
into that like world or that stage, when you like
Yeah,
hop
like
into it, or when
I
he
think
goes
I'm
into the
pretty sure it was
house.
the Toad houses when you
Okay.
leave that area, or
Yeah.
maybe I think it was just when you left. But I swear it reminds me of those old goofy Mario cartoons.
Yeah.
I it
Is it
would be
like a
crazy if that was
cartoony
from
warp
that,
sound?
something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
All right.
very
We're gonna have
light,
to look into.
but it always yeah. I don't know how
Yeah.
else to explain it. I just feel like it's
Okay.
come from somewhere, and it's always drove me nuts to try to figure out.
Yeah.
It's like where did they bring that from? Or maybe it's
Yeah.
from nothing.
Right. Well, we'll try to like find that sound and try to add this into the episode if we can. But yeah, I mean the sound design in the levels or in the game itself is really good. It's harmless, but like there's a lot of like very satisfying sounds. Like everything sounds
Yeah.
like what you would expect it to. So that's always nice. Do you guys have any favorite levels or stages in this game?
I liked anything that had those, like you jump on and the platform would switch over, flip over to the other side. Like it would be like
Oh,
every time you
yes.
jumped, it would flip back and forth, back and forth. I like those types of
True.
challenges.
Like every time you press the jump button, it would like flip, and then you had to like coordinate your
Yeah,
jumps in that.
and
Yeah.
there's more than just like platforms. There's other things that would do that in the game. It was kind of a fun theme
Hmm.
that I really
Yeah,
enjoyed.
like wasn't there like the music ones where it's like kind of like on a beat, like boop,
Yes,
boop,
yes.
Yeah.
boop, and then it would change direction or something.
I
Yeah,
think
those
I
were pretty
did listen to the music during those times because it was a bit hard not to.
Yeah.
true.
Good luck.
Yes.
But actually, I think that the enemies actually would jump too. I want to say along with it. Maybe I'm thinking of New Super Mario Brothers and that because like every time there was a but, and New Super
Yeah.
Mario Brothers, like the enemies would jump or
Yeah.
something. So I almost wonder if that
Yeah.
I maybe mixing that up there, but
Maybe. I'm not sure. Can't confirm or deny.
No, I can't remember
Uh,
either because I think
yeah.
there's something similar in Galaxy as well. So
Right. Yes, for sure. Yeah, Galaxy 2, I think. It was either that or like
Yeah.
3D World. I'm pretty sure 3D World does, but yeah, any stages that stand out to you, Josh?
Off the top of my head, I remember I can't remember like a specific one. Oh, but I always thought the ghost houses in this were pretty neat. Some of them worked sort of like a maze, and I just think the aesthetic worked really well.
Yeah.
I remember one in particular. If you get towards the end, I think I sent you guys a picture of it when I was playing it the other day. I can't remember if you have to wait a certain amount of time or what sets it off, but if you look in the background, like there's like this creepy looking skinny ghost thing that actually shows up like kind of to the right of the flagpole.
Oh,
But I just always thought those looked cool.
yeah. I I actually skipped those stages because I don't know, I get scared of the boo houses, honestly.
They're,
But I
it's
do
almost a
remember them
little
good.
creepy.
Yeah, they were very good stages, very clever, and I remember they looked really good in 3D too. Um, some of my favorite stages, there's like waterfall stages, which
Oh
actually looked
yeah.
really impressive. So that was pretty cool. And like they had these steep drops, and it's crazy like how on a handheld system you still had like this feeling in your gut, like, oh God, I hope I make it. Um, and there's also these like dry bones cart levels towards the end of towards the end of the game, and like some of the Bowser stages. I just really liked them. It was just very strange to like see this like mine carts made out of dry bones. So that was entertaining. One of my favorite levels, not just in this game, but like ever, was the final stage with Bowser, where, in spoilers, just a heads up about this, fast forward like 30 seconds maybe. Um, but towards the end of the game, when you fight Bowser, you're kind of like jumping up this crumbling
Oh
castle
yeah.
as Bowser's like trying to just kill you basically, and it just has all these really cool platforming challenges. And one of them, I completely forgot about this. I played the game the other day. uh Bowser like throws barrels at you, kind of like Donkey Kong style, so
Yeah.
it was cool to see that. And I also totally didn't like, this didn't hit me until I was playing the other day, but there's parts of these like Bowser stages where Bowser is like shooting fireballs at you, and if you think about it, it's basically a 3D version of the original Mario Brothers
Hmm.
end stages, where like you have to have the bridge drop underneath Bowser so that he falls in the lava, and like that just never occurred to me before. So it's just like the same type of level design, but in 3D from like a new camera perspective. So I thought that was really, really interesting, and wish I picked up on that earlier, but glad I discovered it. There's also like these buzzsaw stages where like you land on these stages, and like these buzz saws, kind of slice the stage off, and then as it falls down, you kind of have to hop and bop around and kind of navigate through the stage that way. And one that I just thought was really pretty, it was like this clock level. You're like inside of a clock, kind of like Super Mario 64 style. So that's always fun to me. I don't know. I kind of like that kind of aesthetic. Um, I think we're going a little long, so I apologize for that. There's some pretty cool enemies, but I think we talked about that enough. The last thing I want to talk about is kind of like the replayability factor and post game of the game, and the legacy of Super Mario 3D Land. So, do you guys have anything to say about that replayability, post game, and the legacy of Super Mario 3D Land?
For me, I think that's one of my favorite parts of it is just where again I feel like it's very easily replayable. It's fun. Like I said, it's a little bit easy if you're just going through like the main game kind of quickly, but that's not necessarily a bad thing when it's a fun easy. If
Yeah.
that makes sense. It still throws enough at you. It mixes it up enough. And the 3D still, again, like a decade later, I think still looks really good in this game. I think they did it really well. You don't really see that anymore. Like there's not 3D on the Switch, and it just works really well even with the gameplay itself on here. So it's like I said, it's one that I kind of feel that urge to go back to every once in a blue moon, just when I'm looking for, oftentimes I find myself looking for a good Mario game or something just to sit down and go through. And it's kind of become one of those, if I can pull my 3DS out easily and that sort of thing. I think it's plenty replayable, and it's also has plenty to go find if you want to fully complete it again.
Hmm.
Yep. Totally. It's kind of like chicken soup for the soul with this kind of game, you know. It's not overly challenging, but it's challenging enough where it's kind of fun. Yeah, I
Or
totally agree with you in all those
switch it
points.
up and play as Luigi or something if you want to, once you get
Yes.
him unlocked. So
Yeah, great point. Yep, absolutely. I totally
yeah.
forgot about that. I don't think I ever did, so I think I should do that. I think he's just like slippery, right? Like his slippery controls.
Yeah, if I remember, I honestly had just unlocked him on the file I started like this week. I've
Yeah.
unlocked him before, like in the past, and I fully completed it. But if I remember correctly, he's kind of what he usually is.
Yeah.
Maybe a little more slippery and jumps larger. Again, I might be getting that confused with Galaxy and
Right.
3D World and all of that a little bit. But
I
Yeah.
almost got that, like, I don't know if it's quite the same, but I kind of got that feeling like Mario 2, Luigi. I don't know why exactly, but maybe I don't know. And he also does that run like he does,
yeah,
Yeah.
He's unique.
Yeah, totally.
it
Yep.
works.
So,
That
yeah, right.
Luigi's Mansion run.
Right, yeah. His little I don't know how to describe that.
Jog with
Yeah,
the,
but yeah.
the oscillating
Yeah, like a very scaredy cat run in a way.
arms, yeah.
Yeah. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on like the legacy of Super Mario 3D Land and, the post game and the replayability factor of the game?
Since I 100%ed it, like I had thoroughly exhausted the game. Like I'm done with that game. Like I'm done. I did a good job with it. I loved it, and I haven't touched it since, honestly.
Yeah.
But not to say it's not replayable, and it's definitely tempting. I would love to play this. Um, I don't know why, but I also think I've not actually played Captain Toad yet, but I also think of Captain Toad when I think of this game. In some ways, where it's like you're limited to certain angles and kind of in a box
Yeah.
level like idea is
Mhm.
what it kind of reminds me of. And Captain Toad does have 4 levels that you can experience with Nintendo Labo VR. And I thought this game would be kind of cool to try with Labo if they did a port, or they brought this game over to the Switch in some form. It's like to have that, just kind of get that 3D experience somewhat with the VR headset.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's like where the replayability would come in for me, is experiencing it on a new platform. I can play it on my 3DS and I'll enjoy it, I'm sure. But just to see it kind of updated, I'd like to see that a lot. A lot of like
Yeah.
passion put into that, and even if we don't get like a land collection, it's still something that that they're talking about. 3DS games coming, so I'm hoping, yeah, that's one of the ones that they could bring. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting with Labo. So I'm very fond of this game. When I played it, I never had like a bad experience with it. Like I said, it's kind of like chicken soup for the soul. It's just this game that when you do go back to it, it's just like, oh yeah, this is a really good game. Not overly memorable like we've mentioned before, but what it does do, it does just fine and really well, and has a lot of like creativity to it. This game has lots of stages too, so it's not just that there's like this regular game where there's a few stages across 8 worlds or something. There's a whole unlockable like second part of the game after you beat the 1st round of levels. Like there's a
Impressive.
lot of stages after that. Yeah, it's really impressive. A lot of them are kind of like remixes of past stages, but there's some totally new ones as well, and they're really, really good. So that's cool, and it's kind of rare to see that. Super Mario 3D World does have something similar to that, so that's kind of cool. And so let me just talk about some like background details about how far the game has come since it came out. So, guys, this game sold 12.7 million copies.
Wow.
That is insane. I never would have expected that. Yeah, that's like considering the 3DS's total performance throughout its lifetime. It is weird that it's a console of the past, but I'm gonna guess it was at 80 million. But 12.7 million, 13 million copies. That is crazy. So it is interesting to see, or it will be interesting to see if there's ever like another version of, this 3D series, Land and World and stuff. Because with sales like that, that kind of would validate a new iteration. It was reviewed quite well on Metacritic. It's now sitting at a 90 out of 100, so that's pretty good. I like what we said. It's very harmless, and what it does do, it does well. There was a sequel, obviously, Super Mario 3D World, on originally on the Wii U and now on the Switch, which we all highly recommend or at least look into. I do hope that there's another sequel, like I said. For me, the legacy of this game isn't just about what kind of a game it is. It's about how amazing of a showcase of 3D that it is. To me, it is the best demonstration of the capabilities of stereoscopic 3D ever, period, across any medium. I think it has done it better than any movie, any TV show, not that there's too many of those, or any other 3D game, even on the 3DS. I just think that they just went all out with the capabilities and advantages and benefits that 3D has and totally threw it into this game. And I really appreciated that because I wasn't expecting that. I thought 3D was more just like, you just look at things popping out at you, but it's so much more than that. And, they incorporated all these interesting camera angles, like an isometric point of view. Like if you're thinking about the Spyro games on the Game Boy Advance or, Banjo-Kazooie on the Game Boy Advance, they tried an isometric point of view and it's just so frustrating. You can't like judge distance. You don't know where to go. It's just very bizarre. But in 3D land, when they had that, it made perfect sense. It was totally fine to work with. So that was interesting. And it is kind of sad that 3D is no longer a thing. I hope that it does show up again at some point in the future because the legacy of this game is going to be tainted because of that. It's not going, even if it is re-released, you can't play it in 3D unless you play it on the 3DS or if they have some type of other solution in the future. So I do worry about it in that way because, even if some people like the game, it's going to be hard for people to go back and really understand what makes it so special. So I do recommend people go out and get this game, while it's still available. Who knows what the price will be in a few years, but I'm very fond of this game. I really appreciated what it did for the 3D medium, and it was just a really pleasant experience. So, So those are our thoughts on Super Mario 3D Land. If you're still listening, thank you very much for sticking with us. But I think that this game really deserves the recognition that we've been giving it. So thank you guys very much for joining me for this episode. So Josh, can you do our due diligence?
Sure. Of course, you can always find us on Twitter at Nintendo_Nos. That's NOS. Then, of course, on Facebook, Nintendo Nostalgia, and on Instagram with the same.
And so next episode, we're going to be talking about Nintendo commercials. So if anyone wants to share any of their memories or thoughts on Nintendo commercials over the years, feel free to send us an email or a voicemail. So if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can reach us at 317-969-5690. We always love to hear from our listeners. And you could also send us an email if you don't want to leave us a voicemail. It's totally fine. So you can reach us at Nintendo Nostalgia IN. So Nintendo Nostalgia, one word, and then IN at gmail.com. Thank you guys very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Later,
Bye,
person.
everyone. Hello and welcome to the Nintendo Nostalgia Podcast. My name is Chris Warren, and I am jumping for joy that I am your host today. No, wait, can I start that over? That was really corny and lame.